Hi everyone, my name is Jada, I'm a data analyst, and today I'm here to guide you through my examination and conclusions regarding past influenza seasons in the US. So as many of you already know, there is a specific period each year where an elevated number of individuals contract the flu, commonly known as the influenza season. And during this period, certain individuals are more susceptible to flu symptoms, leading them to require hospitalization. Consequently, there is a heightened demand for additional staff in hospitals and clinics to adequately attend to those affected by flu-related complications. The responsibility of supplying the required extra personnel falls on medical staffing agencies. But before dispatching any additional staff, we must determine the optimal time and the number of staff required for each state. To achieve this, we need to delve into various aspects, such as identifying who are the most affected age groups and which are the US states that show the highest concentration of both virus spread and vulnerable populations. In addition, we should also highlight the peak months for influenza deaths. But let's now focus on the demographic most at risk. The bar chart here at the top right shows the total influenza deaths in the US across different age groups. From this chart, is it possible to see how the group 65 years and over account for more than 60% of total influenza deaths. To test our project hypothesis, which is that a higher concentration of individuals over 65 years results in an increased population mortality rate, I ran a statistical analysis whose results are shown here in the scatter plot at the bottom left. The graph clearly displays that if the number of people over 65 years old gets higher, then the number of flu deaths among the same population does the same. Therefore, in light of these results, we can conclude that the population over 65 years is the most affected by influenza in the US. Let's now have a look at the states most at risk. So, with a clear understanding of which age group is the most affected, we can now identify the states with the highest concentration of virus spread, here, and vulnerable population, here. So, examining a map and corresponding bar charts, we observe that states such as Montana, Delaware, and Vermont have the highest influenza death incidence rate, which means a higher number of deaths every 100,000 individuals. And these states also coincide with some of the highest fractions of vulnerable population. To further refine our strategy, we examine the seasonal pattern of influenza deaths. Here there is a line chart presenting the total influenza deaths across US regions by month from 2009 to 2017, illustrating that deaths start to rise in September, then peak through the months of December, January, February, and March, and taper off by April. Armed with this knowledge, we can then strategically deploy additional staff during the peak months of September to April, also in 2018, the year that we are interested in, especially because looking at this other graph on the right, we can clearly see that the mortality course of influenza for this year, 2018, is predicted to be pretty similar to the one registered in the two previous years, 2016 and 2017. Finally, we come to conclusions and recommendations. Here at the top right, we have a map categorizing states based on their count of vulnerable populations. so their count of individuals over 65 years old. A traffic light color scheme guides us in classifying states into high, medium, and low need for additional staff. High need states are colored in red, such as California, Texas, Florida, and New York. A second map, at the bottom right, categorizes states according to influenza incidence rates instead, showing that states like Montana, Wyoming, North and South Dakota should be also prioritized when receiving additional staff. So we ran this analysis using historical data. And this data comes, of course, with a set of limitations that are important to consider. The first limitation comes from using a population-based estimates numbers that may be inaccurate, as these numbers are derived from surveys, potentially leading to incomplete data due to reporting lag. Another data set of influenza-related deaths may actually underestimate the true impact of influenza, as it only captures one cause of death on each death certificate. And this can potentially lead to underlooked cases where influenza played a contributory role, but another primary cause was listed on the death certificate. In addition, a very big percentage of this dataset was initially suppressed because of privacy concerns. Therefore, all the suppressed values were randomly imputed, possibly leading to an alteration of the dataset's summary statistics and consequently to quite some considerable inaccuracies. Finally, there is a fourth limitation in forecasting the required medical staff for the upcoming influenza season due to a lack of historical records detailing how many staff were sent to each state in the previous seasons. Nevertheless, the analysis of past influenza seasons enables us to formulate a suitable staffing plan for hospitals in anticipation of the upcoming influenza season 2018. Thank you very much for your attention.